hosting this session, we are pleased to introduce Mr. Mai Hong Yong, Standing Vice Chairman of Binh Duong People's Committee. We are also pleased to introduce the presence of the leaders of departments, authorities, unions in the province, together with leaders of domestic and foreign enterprises operating in the province. From the leaders of the Horaces Asia meeting, international organizations, and foreign localities, we are pleased to introduce Mr. Frank Jürgen Richter, Chairman of Horaces, the Global Visions Community of Switzerland. We would like to introduce representatives of local enterprise attending today's session. Mr. Phạm Ngọc Thuận, General Director of Begamax IEC. Mr. Phạm Hồng Hải, CEO of HSBC in Vietnam. To start the session, we would like to invite Mr. Mai Hong Yong, Standing Vice Chairman of Binh Duong People's Committee, to share his speech.
Kính thưa Ngài Tiến sĩ Frank, kính thưa toàn thể quý vị. Trước tiên là tôi xin nói rằng chúng ta vừa có một cái buổi khai mạc cái diễn đàn Horaces 2018 rất là thành công. Thay mặt lãnh đạo tỉnh thì tôi cũng chính cảm ơn tổ chức Horaces đã tạo điều kiện cho chúng tôi tiếp xúc với lãnh đạo các tập đoàn trên thế giới, những đối tác tiềm năng luôn quan tâm và ủng hộ chúng tôi, đã đóng góp một phần không nhỏ cho sự phát triển của Việt Nam và cũng như sự phát triển của Bình Dương. Đến với cái hội thảo hôm nay thì tôi xin muốn nói một vài ý liên quan tới cái cơ hội đầu tư ở Việt Nam và ở Bình Dương. Thứ nhất là ở Việt Nam thì chúng ta hiện nay là có một quốc gia là có an ninh chính trị, trật tự an toàn xã hội là ổn định. Đây là cái tiền đề quan trọng để cho doanh nghiệp nước ngoài có thể yên tâm đầu tư ở Việt Nam cũng như ở Bình Dương. Cái thứ hai thì chúng tôi cũng có ở Việt Nam thì cũng có nguồn nhân lực cũng khá là dồi dào và đang là ở cái thời kỳ dân số vàng. 60% dân số thì trong độ tuổi lao động, có khả năng đáp ứng được đa dạng các nhu cầu của nguồn nhân lực. Với cái quy mô dân số là 96 triệu người và sức mua của thị trường Việt Nam thì ngày càng tăng, cho nên là hứa hẹn một cái thị trường tiềm năng lớn trong tương lai cho các nhà đầu tư. Cái thứ ba là ở Việt Nam chúng tôi hiện nay thì đã là thành viên của WTO, tham gia 12 hiệp định thương mại tự do FTA, gồm có 6 FTA giữa ASEAN với các đối tác lớn như là Ấn Độ, Trung Quốc, Nhật Bản, Hàn Quốc. Hay là hiệp định thương mại CPTPP đang được phê chuẩn. Rồi tiếp theo là FTA với EU. Và các hiệp định này thì đã mở rộng cánh cửa cho hơn 50 nền kinh tế, là cơ hội để Việt Nam nói chung được kết nối và tham gia sâu hơn vào chuỗi giá trị và mạng lưới sản xuất toàn cầu. Đối với Bình Dương thì đến với hội thảo cơ hội đầu tư tại Bình Dương hôm nay, chúng tôi mong muốn giới thiệu đến quý vị một tỉnh Bình Dương đang chuyển mình và trở thành những mảnh đất vàng, luôn sẵn sàng trải thảm đỏ chào đón quý doanh nghiệp đến hợp tác đầu tư tại Bình Dương. Bình Dương chúng tôi thì nằm trong cái vùng kinh tế trọng điểm phía Nam. Đây là cái vùng kinh tế năng động nhất của nước Việt Nam, đang phát triển mạnh mẽ với mức tăng trưởng là gấp 1,5 lần so với cái mức tăng trưởng bình quân chung của Việt Nam. Và vùng kinh tế trọng điểm này hiện nay cũng đã chiếm 40% kim ngạch xuất khẩu, đóng góp 60% ngân sách quốc gia và thu hút hơn 60% số dự án và số vốn đầu tư nước ngoài tại Việt Nam. Đối với tỉnh Bình Dương thì chúng tôi cũng luôn tích cực đầu tư cái hạ tầng kỹ thuật, xây dựng cái hệ thống giao thông kết nối nội vùng, liên vùng hoàn chỉnh và tạo thuận lợi cho phát triển công nghiệp, quy hoạch xây dựng và các khu đô thị mới. Tính đến nay thì tỉnh Bình Dương có hơn 31,7 tỷ đô la vốn đầu tư và từ 64 quốc gia và vùng lãnh thổ trên thế giới đã đến đầu tư ở Bình Dương. Kính thưa toàn thể quý vị, Trong hội thảo thu hút đầu tư hôm nay thì chúng tôi mong muốn giới thiệu tiềm năng và cơ hội đầu tư của tỉnh Bình Dương, đồng thời kêu gọi các nhà đầu tư cùng hợp tác đầu tư vào những lĩnh vực mà tỉnh Bình Dương quan tâm, như các ngành công nghiệp kỹ thuật cao, công nghiệp phụ trợ, công nghệ thông tin, cơ khí chính xác, cũng như đầu tư vào phát triển thương mại, dịch vụ, đầu tư vào phát triển đô thị và đào tạo nguồn nhân lực. Chúng tôi tin tưởng chắc chắn rằng với thế mạnh về công nghệ, tài chính, mạng lưới thị trường quốc tế và kỹ năng quản trị kinh doanh của các nhà đầu tư ở đây, một khi đã kết hợp được cái lợi thế Bình Dương sẽ mang lại lợi ích to lớn và thiết thực cho cả hai bên. Về phần mình thì chúng tôi cam kết luôn đồng hành cùng doanh nghiệp và sẵn sàng tạo mọi điều kiện thuận lợi nhất cho hoạt động sản xuất kinh doanh của các nhà đầu tư nước ngoài tại Bình Dương. Cuối cùng, thay mặt lãnh đạo tỉnh Bình Dương, tôi xin trân trọng kính mời quý vị tham quan tour thực tế cơ sở hạ tầng tỉnh Bình Dương vào ngày mai để có thể tận mắt chứng kiến những gì chúng tôi đã và đang nỗ lực xây dựng nhằm hỗ trợ một cách hiệu quả nhất cho các nhà đầu tư. Hãy đến Bình Dương để cùng chúng tôi gặt hái thành công. Xin chúc quý vị nhiều sức khỏe, hạnh phúc và thành đạt, và chúc các doanh nghiệp luôn thành công. Xin cảm ơn.
Thank you, Mr. Duong, for your speech. In order to understand more about Binh Duong and its development and vision, we would like to invite Mr. Võ Sơn Điền to share some useful factors.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Võ, and Vice President and Marketing Director of Becamax. I would like to spend another 15 minutes to share with you that how potential and opportunity to do business and to invest in Binh Duong, and how Binh Duong province and Becamax can be of help. Before talking about Binh Duong province, I also would like to give you some highlight about Vietnam, because you know that doing business investment more or less relate to the geopolitical issues. I know that you're fully aware about Vietnam, but just give you some glance about Vietnam. Vietnam is small but long country, and some of the figure that you know about Vietnam is that we got a very young population, like a golden age. And according to the report from the US Embassy in the last 2 years, Vietnam also ranked number 8 in terms of foreign student stay overseas, even though we are low GDP per capita. A lot of family, they send their kids to the US, to Canada, to Australia for study. And you know that every year, maybe Mr. Hai know well that the Vietnamese people living overseas, they send them back to Vietnam $12 billion US. This is an official figure without any hand carry money. This is something like account for 7% of GDP. That's people don't know how Vietnamese they can carry 2 mobile phones. And also, like unlike other ASEAN countries, you know, we got the writing system like ABC's alphabet system similar to English, and that's why the Vietnamese people very easy to catch up with English. That's why when you get lost in Vietnam, you can get a taxi driver and you blah blah blah. They can send you back to the hotel. But if you get lost in Beijing or Bangkok, you have to be careful. And then also, like Vietnam is also one of the most open economy, because we have concluded 16 we call free trade agreement. On other speaker talking about the Vietnam EU free trade agreement to be adopted maybe sometime next year, and then CPTPP and also RACP is under process. And hopefully there's open more opportunity for Vietnam with the region and with the world. And Vietnam also we ran number 3 after Singapore and Indonesia in terms of the startup ecosystem for innovation and entrepreneurship. And talking about Vietnam, we don't talk about a single country, but we talk about the whole ASEAN family with 650 million people. And without any tariff across the border, and with the rules of origin that you can mobilize on the resources, capital, and then if you got an investment in Vietnam, you can export to the rest of ASEAN. And so don't forget about APEC, because of like 3.2 million people gonna come to the middle class Spanish consumer by 2030. And within 3 to 4 hours to fly from Vietnam, you can reach half the world GDP. And last but not least, we were talking about China plus one, because you may want to back up one factory in Vietnam to avoid over-dependence to China, but you still sell to the world with Chinese price. And Mr. Duong, the Vice Chairman, also mentioned a lot about Binh Duong, so I'll just give you some figure about Binh Duong. So at the moment, we have like a 9.1, this is the GRDP, and also like double of the size of the country in terms of GDP or GDP per capita. 2017, we ranked the number 1 in terms of quality infrastructure, and so number 2 after Ho Chi Minh City or maybe Hanoi for the FDI attraction. If you're talking about the big investment like casino, hotel, this is Hanoi, but if you're talking about a small, medium enterprise, real disbursement money, Binh Duong is number 1. And also in like October, we're so lucky that we're so honored to be chosen by ICF, one of the most 21 smartest city in the world by ICF by 2019, and we're so like 106 members of WTA by the World Technopolis Association. Some of the figure about the industrialization for Binh Duong in the southern key economic triangle. Binh Duong is one of the manufacturing hubs, and if you look at the figure, we have 29 industrial parks. We got 12 industrial estate, and then Mr. Duong also just inform you that at the moment we got more than 3,400 foreign direct investment and some 26,000 local company, and total investment capital about $32 billion US. And we also like account for 12% of the total national export value and also 30% of the total national industrial output. Some of the names on the international brand in Binh Duong all over the world. And I would like to share with you that why the people look at Binh Duong for the destination for doing business or investment. There's 3 pillars that we look at. Number 1 is a very strategic location. Number 2 is integrated infrastructure. Number 3 is the proactive and propitious local government. In terms of location, I think that you know that we're only 45 minutes away up north to Ho Chi Minh City. And Ho Chi Minh City is like a commercial and financial banking logistics center of Vietnam. And if you travel from Ho Chi Minh City, you traveling upstream to the highland. So that's why the ground condition Binh Duong very hard and solid and help you to sell a lot of money when you do factory. Even though you build like 4-star building, no poly requirement, no foundation needed. And I'm sorry that a little bit that when you came in the last 2 days because some heavy rain, very abnormal happened in the last 100 years in Vietnam because we're on very high elevation, like 32 meters from the sea level, you know. But this is something like abnormal happened in Binh Duong in the last 2 days. And also like we said that Binh Duong enjoy the best of both worlds because if you close to Ho Chi Minh City, you enjoy all the services, but you still enjoy the living cost, production cost of the province, not like big city like Ho Chi Minh City in terms of minimum wage, in terms of living cost. And at the moment, the central government Vietnam, they divide the country into 3 regions. It's the northern, the center, and the southern key. And if you look at the map, Binh Duong is located right at the center of so-called the southern key economic triangle, which is about more than 20 million people, and we contribute more than 60% of the whole country's GDP. And this is a really commercial and manufacturing hub of the south of Vietnam. And because of that orientation that in the next 10 to 20 years for the central government and the master plan for the airway, for the sea or the waterways or the railways, whatever, any like big projects are running across Binh Duong province. So this is a very good foundation for Binh Duong to have very good connectivity to the whole region, also across the nation. The second factor is that how that Binh Duong can attract a lot of FDI because of the model that how we build the so-called integrated infrastructure and services. Because in the industrial park that what you're looking for, not only that can we provide a hard, we call it like a technical or hard infrastructure like power, water. This is very easy because you come up when you can do that. But more importantly, that this is the service infrastructure, how we can support you. We're on-site custom clearance, like training center. We got like firefighting, security, one-stop service, and also more importantly that these days that how to make sure a long-term and sustainable development because the social infrastructure community. That's why we can build like hospital, you can build like university, school for children, etc. I'm going to go in detail to that. Because back to history, like 1993, 94, when Bình Dương started being the first industrial park, we learned a lot of lessons because behind the successful story of industrial park, but also we have a lot of so-called issues. Because you can build a lot of park, but are you sure you can provide like skilled worker to investor or not? Or make sure that after working out, how that worker can go back home safely, or where they live, where the kids they can study. This is remain a big issue for us. Then in the last like 20 years, so this is causing like a job hopping. The problem because after working hour, nobody pick up the children. It got a big problem. So that's why from the year 2000, when Becamax or Binh Dương master plan any new industrial park, we always follow the concept, so-called like integrated and self-contained industry, or simple word, we say like 3-in-1 concept. Like we've got 1 hectare for land, we have to back up by 1 hectare for support and services, and 1 hectare for housing and retention. And we have to remain a lot of nice location for service provider, like school for children, like hospital, like bus station. That's we make sure that it's a long-term and sustainable development. And if you go through the history of the industrialization Bình Dương, like 19th century, that what we do is that we just do very simple industrial estate that not good infrastructure and no security. And this is like it's the early day that Bình Dương start to receive investment. And by 1996 onwards, and then we so set up the industrial park. But as I explained to you that also we also make a mistake because of that 90% of the park we build focus on factory and factory. And then from the year 2000, what we do is that more like integrated concept. We provide 3-in-1. But now for Bình Dương, for the next step, that what we do is that we try to reduce labor intensive, we try to looking for more like capital intensive or more higher value added and supporting activity. And based on the successful story Bình Dương, that now we're moving out to the other provinces across the nation. So you can find Becamax and VSIP brand across the nation, from the north, from the center, from the south, even though some islands in Vietnam. And the third factor, so that how that local government of Bình Dương can support investor. Number one is that I think that in the last 2 days, when you're traveling around, you see a big building is a green color. This we call the admin center of Bình Dương or city hall. This is the first ever concept that you see that all government officials, they sit in only under one place in one roof. And what we do is that they work through with the government officer through the see-through class booth. If you submit something, they're supposed to return you a receipt. You said how many days they're going to return you the document, the dossier, and then if anything missing, they inform you in advance, so that try to cut off kinds of bureaucracy for you. And then we so have so-called like one-stop service from the industrial park approving authority. Let's say that for the industrial zone authority, they can help you from give you the investment license, both license project, work permit for people, support you for the construction permit, give visa or residential card for a foreigner to come work here. It's try to make it very simple, easy for you. And last but not least, the local government of Bình Dương, like Mr. Duong, or leader, they willing to receive any investor if you got anything to petition or to talk, even though they said maybe a day, at least one time per quarter, to meet with all the investors from different country, you know, if they got anything to share with government, any petition, and they willing to receive only like Chamber of Commerce from the AmCham, Eurocham, they come and they share how to help the Bình Dương to improve more and more like investment climate to support business people. And for the next step for Bình Dương, that we're looking for more like innovation and more sustainable development. In the last 3 years, we're still thinking about how that we can transfer the traditional manufacturing way to more like advanced and more like higher value added manufacturing activity in Bình Dương. Then one of the concept, the theory that we apply, this is we call like smart city or intelligent computing. Then what we learned a lot from one of our partner with Eindhoven from Netherlands. And what we do is that we try to convert Bình Dương from the traditional manufacturing into more innovation and more value added. And what we can do is that we can use the theory of triple helix collaboration model. We try to work closely between the government, the industry and R&D or institution. And we also set up so-called Binh Duong Navigator. This is like a navigation for Binh Duong in the next 5 years, including 60 actions to be taken for the next 5 years. And we focus on 4 domains. First, we talk about the people. Secondly, technology. Number 3 is the basics, and number 4 is the business. What is talking about people, we try to train up to provide more skilled work for the investor, business people. Try to send a lot of instructor university overseas for their training, and try to attract more and more talented people to come to work in Binh Duong. In terms of technology, we try to get on the university and vocational training school to be like a linkage between the business people, so like between the training institution, and try to provide more tech lab, fab lab, more practical lab for people. In terms of basic, not only we provide very good physical infrastructure like power, like a water supply, but also more like a digital, more like a ICT infrastructure to support them. And in terms of business, that we try to support the existing business in Binh Duong and try to attract and create more environment to attract more new investment to come in, and also to support the young people and young entrepreneurs. And even though right now the people come to Binh Duong, they also just set up an official governance to manage the Binh Duong Navigator in the next 5 years by work out the concept atop that we got a steering committee, and also included the chairman, the party secretary, chairman of BKMX, and followed by operational committee by Mr. Duong, vice chairman. He's the chairman of operational committee, and we got the office of the smart city to support for the government. And then by side that we have like advisory, triple helix advisory board, which is like a workshop, and we conduct a lot of workshop. So let the 3 pillars, like the government, the company, and also the institution, they interact and they can give comments or recommendations to the government so that they become the best idea. So they put in the policies to make sure that whatever Binh Duong can do in the next 3 to 5 years is on the right way. And try to mobilize on the resources, not only local, but also like a national level, and also for the international organization. And the 3 like a key project that Binh Duong gonna deploy in the next 3 years. Number 1, in terms of the smarter transportation and logistics. Number 2 is the smarter in terms of skilled workforce. And number 3, like smarter to increase the high content of the service and manufacturing activity in Binh Duong province. So the first priority that we talk about the smarter transportation and logistics, because we face the problem right now. We got so many industrial parks, we got so many factories, and we got so many containers moving every day, traffic jam and like traffic like a slowdown in Binh Duong these days. So what we do is that we use the multi-modal transportation by do a combined concept of inland transportation. We got like water, like river waterway. We have like railways, and we combine together, and we make very good connection to on the industrial park, commercial township. So make sure that we cut up like 40% of the cost and 60% of traveling times. And what we do is that that the central government of Vietnam, they are going to build more and more deep sea port and new airport in the next 3 to 5 or 10 years. So what we do is that we just plan in the next 5 years, we build more and more logistic hub along the railway system from government. But in order to wait for the money from central government, maybe it take a long time. Maybe Binh Duong, we can work closely with other provinces like Dong Nai and Vũng Tàu. We can invest first, but we can use that railway not for passenger, but for cargo. We can use that for container. Because Binh Duong, we don't have seaport, we don't have airport, but we can do the intermodal. Then we try to make it, like speed it up and try to save the cost for transportation. The second priority for Binh Duong in terms of Binh Duong Navigator 2.0 and 1 is that we can mobilize on resources from our university system Binh Duong, try to provide a linkage between like business community and with the training institution. We also try to work with a lot of international universities, so we can provide more research and R&D, and also we try to build an ecosystem, more like incubator, to support and the young people by provide tech lab, fab lab, and living lab on the young people. And the third priority for Binh Duong is that in the next 3 to 5 years, we try to bring up the quality of investment in Binh Duong by setting up more and more like infrastructure, like we set up science and technical industrial park to attract more and more high-tech and value-added people. And the first ways that we're thinking how we can work out a platform for semiconductor and related. For example, like Intel in Ho Chi Minh City, they can do like back end, but we can use the finished product from Intel, and we can bring to Binh Duong, and we can do more like a security solution by doing packaging. So we got less money investment, but less people, but we can still support Intel or other people. Then how we can do that? And we also provide more like university villages to attract more and more university and colleges coming to Binh Duong. And so we provide the platform for more and more services for university, like skill workforce, like technology transfer, entrepreneurship, incubator, etc. And this is some of the proposed industry that we may want to look in for in next few years, including services sector, also including manufacturing sector. And the last slide that we're talking about Becamex, and we are one of the key drivers to support for the investment and the infrastructure development in Vietnam. For Becamex, in short, we involve in 4 areas. One is industrial property. We provide infrastructure and land, ready factory for investor. Number 2, we involved in service commercial property. We can work with those investors for hotel, for shopping center services. Number 3 is the housing and residential property. And last but not least, we also get involved in the big project for like logistics, for transportation, and for other projects. And thank you so much for your listening. And to back up my presentation, I'll give you a very short video clip of 4 minutes to summarize everything. Thank you so much for your listening.
Thank you, Mr. Võ Xuân Đình. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention for the clip about Becamex IDC to be shown, please?
With a strong GDP growth rate, Vietnam is emerging to become a manufacturing powerhouse of Asia. Located at the center of the Southern Key Economic Zone, Binh Duong is the industrial hub of the country. With its outstanding infrastructure and open investment policy, Binh Duong is leading in attracting foreign investments. Being the sister city with many innovative cities such as Eindhoven, Daejeon, and Yamaguchi, Becamex is a key driver of Binh Duong's development. In 1996, Becamex was supported by the governments of Vietnam and Singapore to develop the first Vietnam-Singapore industrial park, becoming the pioneer in providing one-stop service to investors. Becamex has developed an extensive network of industrial parks across the country. Becamex's industrial parks provide integrated solutions that meet investors' stringent operating needs, including technical infrastructure, service infrastructure, especially one-stop services and on-site customs clearance, social infrastructure, to build a committed workforce, Becamex pioneers in developing a social housing plan of 102,000 units. To support investors' sustainable development, Becamex has built a comprehensive ecosystem. The integrated township and industrial park model facilitates mutual support between industry, service, and community. It creates a live, work, and play destination. The Binh Duong New City is located at the center of the larger industrial region, has the vision to become an industrial city, a science and technology city, a livable city. The Bakemex City Complex, the heart of the Binh Duong new city, is soon to be developed. The 23-hectare mixed-use development creates an exciting place to work, live, and play. This area is also the transportation hub of the city. To ensure excellent connectivity of her industrial parks to international seaports and airports, Bakemex has proactively developed the strategic corridors of Binh Duong. To meet the demand of factory rental and logistics services, Bakemex provides modern ready-built factories and logistics warehouses. To take good care of communities surrounding our industrial parks, Bakemex provides high-quality healthcare facilities and services. To provide a high-skilled workforce, Bakemex established the Eastern International University, building linkages between training and industry needs. After 5 years, the school has made remarkable achievements. To provide reliable digital infrastructure, VNTT provides state-of-the-art telecom infrastructure and IT services. Bakemex is the trusted strategic partner of the world's leading corporations. Semcorp in industrial development, Tokyo Group in urban development, Warburg Pincus in logistics infrastructure, NTT in telecommunication and IT. In her endless quest to create new breakthroughs, Bakemex is a key driver of the Binh Duong Smart Region strategy to build a connected, dynamic, and people-centered ecosystem. The working mechanism is the triple helix model, promoting close cooperation between government, business, and institutions. The 4 key pillars are people, technology, business, and basics. Eastern International University is the strategic unit to connect closely with enterprises. The school has creative spaces such as Fab Lab, Tech Lab, and business incubators to cultivate a vibrant, innovative ecosystem. To keep Binh Duong's leading position in transport and logistics infrastructure, Bakemex is working to develop a smart logistics and transport corridor, a modern railway with intermodal logistics hubs linking industrial parks to international airports and seaports, enabling transport of large volume at optimal cost and higher reliability. A public transport corridor connecting Ho Chi Minh City and Binh Duong via BRT and Metro line. To attract high value-added manufacturing activities to Binh Duong, Bakemex is preparing to develop a science and technology complex with 3 zones. The industrial park, producing high value-added product. The university cluster, providing a future-ready workforce. The university town, creating a dynamic living space. The comprehensive ecosystem creates an ideal destination for investors. Come and join us on the journey towards prosperity. Bakemex IDC, creating foundations for prosperity.
Thank you. And now we would like to invite Mr. Phạm Hồng Hải, CEO of HSBC Vietnam, to share his update about Vietnam.
So good morning, everyone. So thank you for Binh province to allow me to share HBC view on Vietnam market outlook. I think also before I talk about Vietnam, I really want to congratulate Binh in terms of your vision and also the future as well. And in fact, when I look at Binh I see that's a similar story for Vietnam as well. That's how Vietnam are trying to moving forward, moving up the value chain into manufacturing, focusing on services and people as well. So the title for my presentation talking about turbulent time, but also sustainable growth as well. So why talk about turbulent time? If you look at the world today, right, it's a lot of uncertainty, right? So we have a U.S.-China trade war, we have an election coming up in a few markets in Asia, including Thailand, India. I think recently in Sri Lanka there are also some hiccup as well. So look like this is the world we are living in is a bit uncertain today. But surprisingly for Vietnam, I think so far it's very stable. Right? And you can look at either from the political perspective or economic perspective. It's very stable so far. And I explain why it is stable so far. But just take a quick look in terms of the environment we're in today. I think I don't want to bother you with US-China trade war. We heard a lot about it already. What I really want to say is that if the trade war that really happening for 250 billion US dollar export from China to US, I think that is okay, right? So we can handle it. Supply chain, global supply chain can hold that one, right? The concern we have at the moment is not about the 250 billion US dollar, but I think Trump are talking about imposing tariff 25% on the remaining part on another 250 billion US dollar. And again, it's not about trade, right? It's about investment, it's about services, and it's about the whole global supply chain. So that caused a lot of uncertainty for the business community at the moment. And one fact that interesting to note is that even though Trump talked about trade, right? If you look at how US business is doing in China today, US companies are selling roughly about 500 billion US dollar goods in China at the moment. Right? So US business in China are selling about 500 billion US dollar goods in China at the moment. So it's a lot more than just trade itself. And if you purely look at the trade, it's too simple to look at that, right? If you look at global supply chain today, you can't tell that whether iPhone is made in China or in US, right? It can be made from many different parts of global today. Similar for Samsung as well. So again, it's an ongoing issue. And I think our view is that it will take some time to get resolved because it's not only about trade, it's about the conflicting of the two biggest countries in the world, right? But look at Vietnam. So for Vietnam today, in fact, the main story for Vietnam is really FDI and also manufacturing, right? And that, in fact, is resemble the story of Binh Duong at the moment, right? You look at industrial park, look at manufacturing activity, it's all booming at the moment. So that's the story for Vietnam. If you look at the growth so far, I think we are pretty confident that this year Vietnam will hit around 6.7, 6.8% GDP growth and probably one of the highest GDP growth country in Asia today. I heard it will be behind India. India should be 7.5, but Vietnam should be the second highest growth country in the region at the moment. And most of that, if you look at that, is really manufacturing, right? If you look at on the right-hand side chart, manufacturing is really booming ahead, led by FDI investment, right? Samsung is a great story. So 10 years ago, a lot of people talk about Vietnam is suitable for small manufacturing and mostly low-skilled worker. Today, we start seeing that big project, mega project are doing really well, right? So we can talk about Samsung, Intel, Canon, LG, Lotte. So a lot more mega projects are doing well in Vietnam, and that gives confidence to people that even if you have big project, it can happen in Vietnam today, right? And Samsung, for your information, that Vietnam is now Samsung's biggest operation globally at the moment. 60% of Samsung Galaxy product is made in Vietnam today, right? So it becomes really critical for Samsung business in the future. Export also doing really well Vietnam so far. So I think for the past year, despite the turmoil in terms of global financial crisis and also the uncertainty in the world at the moment, right? Trade in Vietnam is still growing about double digit at the moment, even though we expect to slow down for next year, mainly because of driven by electronic slowdown, and especially in the smartphone sector, right, where we start seeing that some saturation in terms of demand from consumer. But overall, still a very healthy story, double-digit growth for trade. But again, when you talk about Vietnam, I think it would be not correct to say that it's only a manufacturing story. In fact, services is picking up, and I'm really pleased to see that Binh also talking about services, logistics as well, right? So normally when you see manufacturing is growing, right, you need logistics to support manufacturing, right? You need to transfer goods in and out from the country as well. And also the other sector doing really well is tourism. So tourism for this year, in fact, Vietnam will hit probably about 15 million tourist arrival, mostly coming from Korea and China. Korea, for simple reason, is that because of FDI investment from Korea, right? I think if you try to book hotel in Hanoi, I would say that it's very difficult if you try to book a 5-star hotel at the moment. Majority hotel are now occupied by Samsung employee or other Korean business, right? But also China also making a big way in terms of visiting Vietnam at the moment. So normally, if you look at tourism, right, it's not only about tourism itself, right? It's about hotel, about food industry, about transportation. So it will drive the economic growth for the country a lot more than just purely manufacturing and tourism. A lot of you also ask, so all look so rosy for Vietnam. What could go wrong for Vietnam, right? Because now I think we all heard about great story of Vietnam. So what could go wrong, right? So there's a few things. I think for short term, we don't expect anything can happen for the country, except that if China really have a hard landing, then we all get impacted, not only Vietnam, but I think across the country in the region today, right? But if you look for medium term, right, outlook, let's say 5 year, 10 year down the road, I would say that public debt remains a concern for the country at the moment. The good news is that it has been declining, trending in the right direction, but still a very high ratio at the moment, right? My view is that for an emerging market, naturally you need to borrow, right? Because you need to invest in infrastructure, in education to drive the growth for the country. But how to invest and make sure that how we invest effectively, I think is very important for Vietnam. So I think the government is really focused on driving down the public debt at the moment and also making sure that investment, the public investment is happening in the right sector as well. Credit growth, I think also a common question of own credit rating agency. When they came to see us, they often ask, how come Vietnam has very high credit growth rate? Right? The good news is that it has been declining. It has been trending downward. I think to give you the background, one of the main reasons that Vietnam need to have a high credit growth because we don't have developed capital market. Right? So if company, if they can go to issue bond or raise equity funding in the market, naturally need to rely on banks. Right? So that's why banking sector still have to shoulder that kind of responsibility to support credit growth in the country. But the good news is that I think as the government authority from Binh mentioned, the Vietnamese government has put macro stability as a top priority for Vietnam at the moment. So I don't think that we'll go back to the situation of 08, 09 when you have, I think credit growth at that time was almost like 40-50%. And then you have a boom bust cycle. I don't think we'll go back to that cycle. So again, it will be more a gradual decline of credit growth. Macro stability will be the key priority for the country. Right? Another challenge for the banking system today is capitalization. Most banks are undercapitalized. Right? For information that Vietnam on Basel 1.5, I think most of you from developed market, you are already on Basel 3, right? So once Vietnam moved to Basel II by 1st of January 2020, many banks are undercapitalized by the new ratio, will be under 8%. So how to raise enough funding to support for those banks to grow, I think will be a challenge going forward. And especially I think for the state-owned bank and the local joint stock bank, where they see some challenge to raise new equity to increase their capital. Inflation, I think, shouldn't be a concern for us for the short term, though I think Vietnam has I think high correlation with oil price. If oil price go up in the future, then yes, you might see some pressure. But for the time being, I think that with the macro stability objective of the government, I don't think that it will be a concern for us in the future. I think also affect local currency, VND has been one of the most stable currency in the region so far. I think probably just after Thai baht, but if you compare with Indonesia rupee, compare with renminbi, for this year, local currency has only devalued by roughly about like 2.5%. So much more stable than most of the regional currency at the moment. And that's where I think that's also the expectation of HSBC in terms of going forward, that the government try to maintain a stable currency to build up the confidence of the business community to invest in the country. Right? So short term, I think no concern. Yes, there's some risk in terms of macro, in terms of fundamental for public debt. The next question people might ask us, so what's the long-term outlook, right? Because short-term look great, no immediate risk for the country. How about 10 years down the road, right? Like what's the future for the country? I would say that FDI remains the key driver. And when I look at Vietnam, I think Vietnam is probably slightly different from China or Indonesia, right? To the extent that Vietnam is still a very small country. And we are next to our big brother, China, right? So the only way for Vietnam to grow is that by connecting with other countries, by inviting FDI coming to Vietnam, right? If you look at the Vietnam story today, right? So yes, China is a big investor, but also Vietnam are attracting investment from Korea, from Japan, from US, from Europe, to a certain extent just to diversify or reduce reliance on China, right? So that will be, I think, remain story going forward. The FDI remain the key focus for the country. And the country, I would say that from the government perspective, probably upsetting FDI investors should be the last thing they want to do, right? So everything they do, they really want to listen to feedback from foreign investors, lay out the red carpet to invite foreign investors to come in the country and try to help foreign investors to grow and to be successful in Vietnam. Again, I think that the export-led from FDI remain the key driver. Samsung today account for roughly about 25% of total trade turnover of the country, and I expect that more FDI coming up in the future as well, right? And I think another good news for Vietnam is that I think some of you who already have the business in Vietnam, right? Some of you start complaining that, oh, you're running short of labor. It's difficult to find enough labor in certain provinces of Vietnam. The good news is that if you look at Vietnam today, right, still about 60%, 65% of people are still living in the rural area. When those people moving from rural into urban, joining factory, right? That will be a new supply of labor force. So obviously vocational training, education is really critical to train this workforce as well. And also it will be a key driver for consumption sector as well, right? Because when people moving from their farm into the factory, they earn a better income and they will have a more power of consumption in the future as well. Lastly, I think as I mentioned at the beginning of the section this morning, so yes, we start seeing some protectionism, we start seeing some like populism of developed market. But in fact, Asia and also Vietnam in particular are driving in terms of trade integration, right? So CPTPP is one thing, and Vietnam one of the biggest beneficiary for CPTPP. But besides CPTPP, right, Vietnam will hopefully I think the EU-Vietnam FTA will get rectified quite soon as well. And then we have RCEP as well, driven by China. So a lot of those trade agreements, I think, will help Vietnam to connect with the world. We have signed up and also have agreed up to 16 trade agreements so far. When I look at the statistics, it's very interesting. So in 1986, total trade of Vietnam is only $5 billion US. Today, total trade of Vietnam is about $420 billion US, right? So just after 30 years of reform, and most of that via trade agreement. And the country also want to use trade agreement to reform the country, right? To force the country to move forward to reform and also fulfill commitment in those trade agreements as well. So I would say that you continue to see Vietnam to remain very active in terms of signing up trade agreement with other countries, right? So last line, in terms of the future outlook for the country. So HSBC has done our forecast by 2030 in terms of where Vietnam will rank. I think very good news that Vietnam among the top 10 fastest growth country in the world from now until 2030. And in fact, if you look at the total size of the country, right, Vietnam will move from ranking 47 to 39, so by 8 places from 2018 until 2030. Again, I think we still expect growth will average around 5.5 to 6%. It's still a very stable political environment. The government is, I think, really want to incentivize and increase foreign investment into the country. Last one, I think in terms of this, just a quick snapshot in terms of macro data. Overall, we still expect good growth for next year, 6.7, 6.8%. Very stable FX environment, healthy trade growth, double-digit growth, and inflation well under control, roughly about like 4.9%, less than 5%. So overall, this is a great picture. I often say with our clients that, in fact, we are very lucky that we are in the right country at the right time. So wish you all the success in 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phạm Hồng Hải. And now it's time for a Q&A session. Please feel free to raise your questions to our chair and speakers.
Mr. Steve Low. Yes. I'm Alex Spring from Pacific Central Group. Thank you for the presentation. My question asks, what are the typical promotional strategies for you to attract foreign companies? Such as what sort of initiatives, encouraging initiatives such as taxation, the price of utilities that you will be given to attract foreign investment? And would you allow majority holding, 51% holding by foreign companies? Thank you.
So this is two-part your question. So I will handle the first part and ask my CEO, Mr. Duong, so allow me to answer on the behalf of BKMX, and the second part maybe Mr. Hai, especially, they can respond. For the foreign investment, that I would say that there's a three factors that we can is our selling point to attract. Number one, we talk about the tax incentive from the central government of Vietnam. Number two, we got commercial incentive from BKMX. And number three, the most important thing is that we talk about the ecosystem that I presented that can help the investor to succeed longer in Vietnam. So in terms of the tax incentive tax bracket in Vietnam right now, I believe that if you compare Vietnam with ASEAN in the AEC, also even though you compare to the region and even though you compare to China, there's Vietnam, the central government really offer quite attractive brackets. They offer you if you fall within highly encouraged industry, they give you 4-year holidays, 4-year no tax, and followed by 9 years, 50% reduction. Secondly, they offer you 10% corporate tax. And number two is that Vietnam is one of the very special countries, they offer no repatriation tax. After you pay CIT, you can transfer completely 100% back to your home country without any withholding percent. Vietnam also allows you 5-year loss carried forward. So that's why your financial controller, chief accountant, you can handle with the assets depreciation. You can do that. You can decide the day you can make profit. Number four, Vietnam also offer, Mr. Duong is a custom department here. New machines and secondary machines you allowed to bring in Vietnam as long as it's less than 10 years old. And Mr. Duong can comment if you got any question. And then also, we also, even though you fall within a normal industry, they still offer you 2+4. It's the same scheme. And this is we call this is the Vietnam, so only one legal system under one roof. Yeah. The second factor, we're talking about a commercial incentive that Binh and also BKMX can help. First of all, depends on the project that Binh, BKMX, we can see that how can support you in terms of land rent, in terms of payment scheme, in terms of that we can provide the backend for you, in terms of how we can support you from the hardware, from the software, from the social infrastructure. That is, we can deal with you from case by case or by the groups. First of all, we have a big company. I'm sorry, I cannot review the name. They are looking for a automotive project. So what they do is that they take a big piece of land, not only for their own, but the whole supply family, and they can negotiate for the big backers, and then all the supply they can follow them, and then this is how we can help. And for BKMX and for Binh, what we're looking for people not only because we try to make money, but how we can develop the province, how we can create more the condition to attract foreign investment, and what we earn more. This is the tax. The tax we pay to government, and this is that we get more than the money we collect you because we're renting your piece of land. And last but not least, I explain to you that if you compare the rest of other industrial park or infrastructure development in Vietnam, hardly you can find the ecosystem like Binh and BKMX can provide to you, like a 3-in-1. Not only hard infrastructure, we call technical infrastructure, but the soft infrastructure, the supporting services, and especially for the social infrastructure. Because without one of them, you cannot sustain longer, because investor, you cannot alone pay with you have to increase your salary every year, you have to take care of your workers, everything. This is also help a lot. Yeah. Is this high? Can you handle the second factor? Sorry.
Yeah, the second part of the question is the shareholding for, are there any restrictions for foreign companies such as majority holding?
So right now, I think the government has been really open up across the sector. The view from the government is that except for those sectors that link to national security, including like army, I think so far banking there's still some restriction, but other than that, I think majority of sector are now open for investment. And the government said that the job of the government is to run the country, not to run business. So any sector that they think that is more beneficial for private sector to run, they will increase foreign ownership up to 100%. One example, I think recently we have Vinamilk and also a few, I think we have even for Sabeco, right, the brewery company, right? The government now are increasing that foreign ownership cap to higher than 51%. So my view is that as a directionally, the government will continue to increase foreign ownership cap in the future across all the sector. And you see that also the way for government to reduce budget deficit as well, because they need to sell more state asset to collect enough money so that they can invest in infrastructure and education for the country. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I ask? Sorry. Can I ask? Okay. Thank you. My name is Ivan. I'm from Awina Synergy International. We are a foreign direct investment company, majority owned by Japan, and the minority is Indonesia, which is myself. And actually together with Norwegian and German partner, we also now currently investing more than 200 megawatt project of solar energy in Indonesia. So we look into the internet and we acknowledge that Vietnam have a pipeline of developing 850 megawatt of solar energy in 2020, and further down the line is 12 gigawatt in 2030. So I would like to know more about the opportunities to invest in solar energy in Vietnam, including foreign ownership and also what kind of incentives, and is the project according to the pipeline at the moment, and any other information relevant to this opportunity. Thank you very much.
So this is the only gentleman from the relevant agency from government. Maybe they can help to answer part of the question.
So probably let me provide a quick background for Vietnam overall, and then probably we have the authority from Binh to share from their incentive program as well. So the government has actually last year they announced the new tariff for solar energy, I think 9.35 cents until June 2019. A lot of projects are now trying to run against that deadline because after June 2019, likely we will see a lower tariff for solar. I think the feedback from many companies and our clients so far is that they see that there's a lot of it in Vietnam. If you look at the power sector for Vietnam today, right, majority are still coal-fired power plant, right? And then we have a hydro, but hydro, I would say that we run up to the limit already, right? Because of the Mekong Delta. So it's difficult to increase more hydro power plant. So if you ask what's the future for energy for Vietnam, obviously I think it will be solar and wind. And solar and wind are actually a key strength for Vietnam moment, and the government is really driving forward. They also announced the new tariff for wind, which is I think quite good as well. When I look at those solar projects at the moment, I think that the challenge is land. Because naturally you need to have access to big land, right, to build a solar farm, right? The common pattern business often do is that they partner with a local company, because local company tend to have access to good land already, and once you partner with the right local partner, you can proceed your project a lot faster. I would say that the key, one of the key challenge for project at the moment besides land is financing. Right now, most banks, when they look at greenfield project in solar, it requires at least like 12 to 15-year financing, right? And without mystery finance guarantee. So banker will need to look at from a standalone project, and they find it a challenge. The good news is that I start seeing that banks are now getting more comfortable because yes, in Vietnam, the good news is that you have only one buyer, which is Electricity Vietnam, right? Which is kind of quasi-government risk, right? So as EVN is only one buyer, it gives you a lot of comfort for the project. Secondly, I think as I mentioned in the slide, right, the key driver for Vietnam is still manufacturing. And normally with manufacturing pickup, you need more power in the country. And with that demand, right, naturally you need more solar project, wind project as well. So my view is that it will be great business. Choosing the right local partner is very important to make sure you can implement projects smoothly.
I have a question regarding the stock market, the Vietnam capital markets. Now, my friend Alex Wen asked about the ownership restrictions. He told me that most industries no longer restricted. What are the rules regarding foreign investors investing or taking over publicly traded companies in Vietnam? Is there a code on takeovers and mergers similar to London or more similar to the United States?
Yeah, so let me try this one. I don't know about the code for London or US about takeover, but so far I think that if a public company that listed in the market and there's no foreign ownership cap, you are free to increase your stake. Obviously, there's a rule of reporting to the state steering commission that I think every 5% stake increase, you need to inform to the state steering commission. I think to work in Vietnam, I think the concept of hostile takeover doesn't work here. It needs to be a friendly takeover because you need to get support from the government, from the local partner as well, or the company that you want to take over. But I think so far it worked. As long as you demonstrate that as a new stakeholder, you bring more value to the table, and the government also quite supportive. When I look at Vietnam regulation, probably one of the most liberal and open in terms of opening access to foreign investors to enter Vietnam stock market. So as long as the company, I think doesn't have foreign ownership cap, I think that you have chance to increase your stake and take over the company. The only exception I would say that in some sector that even though there's no foreign ownership cap, right, local companies are reluctant to increase the cap. So regulation, there's no regulation, right? But as a company, people are reluctant, especially in the retail sector, because the moment you become a foreign company, it's difficult to open up new store. If you look at a lot of retailers in Vietnam today, right? By law, they can increase foreign ownership cap to 100%, but they purposely they keep it at 49%. Because the moment it crosses 51%, they become a foreign company. And as a foreign company, it's difficult for you to open a new retail store in the country. Because in terms of regulation, there's a different definition for foreign retailer and local retailer. As a foreign retailer, there's more restriction. So my view is that there need to be more reform in that fundamental law to allow foreign retailer to expand in the future. I would say secondary market, I'm not sure whether you have any representative from security company, but in general, I would say that it has improved significantly. When I compare equity investor in Vietnam, 2017 and 2018, is very different. 2017, majority of, so beside the local investor, we do have equity investor from offshore market, but most of them are very small investor. But if you look at Vietnam stock market since I think end of last year, so we have Techcombank IPO, we have VP Bank IPO, we have Vinhome listing. All of those deals, now we're talking about $1 billion IPO, right? So suddenly the size of the ticket become much bigger. And then you have a lot of much bigger global fund entering Vietnam today. So I think I end up seeing a lot of equity investors from global fund now have huge interest in Vietnam at the moment. And that will help to drive more liquidity in the secondary market in Vietnam as well. So in general, I would say the trend is picking up. But I think for Vietnam, you also need to realize that it's still a developing country, right? So you don't expect that it has the same depth as a Hong Kong or London market in terms of for the stock market. But in general, we are moving in the right direction. So we start seeing more foreign fund, like investor coming in, and I talk about more bigger fund at the moment. bigger side, global fund, like Temasek, also a big investor in Vietnam at the moment. So a lot of those global funds are coming into Vietnam so far.
Can I? I want to go back to manufacturing. You mentioned this is one of your focuses. The question is, where do you stand in terms of the stage of technology in, let's say, artificial intelligence, or things such as facial recognition? Where do you stand? Are you really, really advanced in global standard, or just average? Or do you have any specific initiatives to promote such advanced technology, manufacturing, into an advanced stage to lure further investment from overseas? Thank you.
So can I say experience from HSBC clients so far? I think it caught us by surprise when I see local business. Right? I think for foreign companies, it's quite normal that they bring in technology from their parent company into Vietnam today. And when you look at a lot of like electronic plant of Samsung, LG, it's most advanced technology. Right? So it's a top class like global technology they bring to Vietnam for their manufacturing. But I want to touch on the local company. Actually, it caught me by surprise when I see a lot of local companies now are catching up in that game as well, because they realize that Vietnam no longer offer cheap labor force. Right? Our labor cost, in fact, is rising, and to some extent, we are more expensive than Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Right? So to compete with other countries is about technology, is about innovation. Right? In fact, I start seeing a lot of local companies are now bringing in new technology. I think not so much for facial recognition, but AI, people start bringing in their technology at the moment. Right? And I see that's very encouraging trend. When they realize that they can't compete on cheap labor costs, they have to compete on technology, they need to compete on quality. Right? So my view is that it's happening. Vietnam has the benefit that we don't have the legacy system. Right? So a lot of things we start from scratch. So in fact, we can leapfrog in terms of bringing new technology into Vietnam and then implement to drive the growth.
Let me share with you a little bit that because I'm not deep advanced in that, but yesterday that my CEO and my chairman also sit down with Mr. Duong Binh, is the chairman of FPT, and so we learned a great story from him because FPT right now is a leading company in terms of providing the 4.0 solution, it's including AI. And what Mr. Binh said that instead of competing directly with India or other country, now it just turned another way, so provide more solution, but it is customized max in Vietnam. So that's why I think that Mr. Binh also his team right now is proud to be one of the 3 countries in the region that they can work on that. And he said that at least in the next 3 to 5 years, he can work closely on a big company in Vietnam. So with FPT University, he can train up the workforce for the 4.0 because you cannot get people 3.0 working for 4.0 industry. So that's why, and Mr. Binh also his team so really confident about working on that. So I think maybe I can connect you to him, so I can share with you more practical, a setting situation about AI and also of Industry 4.0 in Vietnam at the moment.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Carl Heath from Fortis Bridge. One of the questions I'd like to ask, and firstly, congratulate the government of Binh Yoon and Becca Max for holding this convention. The questions I have with regards to is your smart city program. So what are the benefits to the community here and the investors with regards to the smart cities innovation? Thank you.
Thực ra thì cái đề án thành phố thông minh của Bình Dương thì cũng mới được nghiên cứu và được phê duyệt vào cuối năm 2016. Thầy đợi ông nghe cái. Cái đề án thành phố thông minh Bình Dương của chúng tôi thì cũng mới được phê duyệt vào cuối năm 2016. Và chúng tôi cũng đã qua gần 2 năm tổ chức thực hiện á, thì chúng tôi thấy thế này. Tức là nói cái Smart City của Bình Dương thì chúng tôi như anh Điền anh đã có nói đó, chúng tôi đang cố gắng, tỉnh Bình Dương vẫn là cái tỉnh mới phát triển, chúng tôi cố gắng tổ chức cái việc hợp tác cho tốt giữa các cái theo mô hình 3 nhà. Rồi chúng tôi xây dựng trên 4 cái nền tảng như anh Điền anh vừa nói. Thì ứng dụng công nghệ cũng là một phần trong cái đề án này. Cái việc ứng dụng công nghệ của chúng tôi hiện nay thì cũng chỉ ở cái mức là chúng tôi đã có những cái dự án chuẩn bị được phê duyệt để ứng dụng công nghệ để cho tiện lợi cho người dân, tiện lợi cho công dân Bình Dương, tiện lợi cho giao thông. Thì đây là những cái đề án mà chúng tôi đã được phê duyệt và đã chuẩn bị triển khai. Còn những cái còn lại nằm trong gọi là cái đề án thành phố thông minh Smart City đó, thì chúng tôi vẫn còn nhiều việc phải làm, và chúng tôi cũng đang cộng tác với nhiều cái đối tác quốc tế khác để mà cùng với Bình Dương, như anh Điền anh có giải thích vừa rồi, cũng chuẩn bị kết hợp với chỗ anh Trương Gia Bình để cùng với Bình Dương nghiên cứu những cái thực sự thích hợp với công dân Bình Dương, cái thực sự thích hợp với cái điều kiện phát triển của Bình Dương. Thì đó là những cái mà chúng tôi đã làm được. Và những cái mà tiếp theo trong năm 2019 này thì chúng tôi sẽ phê duyệt và tiến hành mua sắm và thực hiện một số cái đề án cụ thể về cho cái Smart City. Và cái lớn hơn mà cái Bình Dương quan tâm là để làm được cái này thì chúng tôi sẽ xây dựng một cái khu công nghiệp khoa học công nghệ, và cái khu này nó sẽ hỗ trợ cho cái việc phát triển cái thành phố Bình Dương một cách lâu dài. Đó là cái ý tôi xin trả lời câu hỏi của ông Cao.
So, in short, I would like to just summarize Mr. Duong. The message is the whole purpose, the aim of Bình Dương province to work on the smart city, or we call like intensive community, is to bringing the prosperity for the local people of Bình Dương. And number two, so like try to create the more like convenient and efficient climate for the business community. And last but not least, try to ensure a comprehensive growth, and also for the long-term sustainable socio-economic development and for the society. And this is a simple word to explain that how that the local government they try to enter. Yeah.
I want to ask one quick question to all this about this Binh province. Would you consider providing land, let's say your land, free of charge or at minimal charge, for us to provide the capital and the technology and the people to develop something what we call like a cyber port, whereby it's an advanced stage of a technology park, whereby we can support the startups, support all the incubation, and specifically encourage the younger people, and they have a platform. They don't have to worry about the landlords. They have offices, they have equipment, they have secretaries, and all you have to do is just provide the land at a minimal level. A case in point is where in Hong Kong, about 18 years ago, we developed something exactly the same, which is called the cyberport. Chairman Anson Chan knows very well about this, and it has been extremely successful. So I want to ask whether there's a possibility for this model. Thank you.
Về cái mô hình này thì tôi biết rằng là đây là một cái mô hình nó cũng là rất là mô hình đó là phổ biến trên thế giới, tức là chúng ta phải có một cái mô hình này, chứ nói là thúc đẩy khởi nghiệp, nói là vườn ươm doanh nghiệp, nhưng mà không có một cái chính sách nào cụ thể thì không làm được. Và trên thế giới cũng rất là nhiều nơi họ làm thế này. Bình Dương cũng đang muốn đi làm theo cái hướng đó. Chúng tôi sẽ cố gắng tạo ra một cái quỹ đất nhất định, cung cấp một cái vườn ươm, cung cấp một cái nguồn tài chính nhất định. Nhưng mà cái quan trọng cái Bình Dương cần trong cái này là có cái hỗ trợ của doanh nghiệp, tức là cùng cộng tác với doanh nghiệp, cùng với nhà nước. Chúng ta sẽ tạo những cái hub này, tạo những cái vị trí này thì mới phát triển được cái vườn ươm công nghệ. chứ mình nhà nước thì chúng tôi cũng không phải vì không có tiền, nhưng mà không thể vì chúng tôi không thể kết nối được cái yêu cầu của doanh nghiệp, kết nối được cái nghiên cứu của nhà trường, kết nối được cái xu hướng của thời đại, và cái này chỉ có doanh nghiệp mới làm được. Cho nên cái này cũng cái Bình Dương đang hướng tới, và nếu mà có doanh nghiệp nào quan tâm tới nội dung này, chúng tôi sẽ sẵn sàng bàn bạc trực tiếp về vị trí đất, về vị trí con người, về cái cách hợp tác. Đó là những cái mà Bình Dương mong muốn, và cái đó cũng là một cái ý của Bình Dương đang tổ chức những hội nghị như thế này.
I just want to echo very quickly. In our experience in the cyberport, 50% of the world's top 100 technology companies move into cyberport in a project. So we would be extremely happy to repeat the same or even higher rate in Vietnam. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Simon Lovegrove. My company called M Health. We do healthcare, but because healthcare is changing from hospitals to integrated care, we are now building communities in which healthcare is provided. And we are looking here at sites of 100 hectares plus. What we need to understand is, can we buy those sites at a price which is reasonable, one? Two, can we then use those sites to leverage debt as we increase the capacity of the site? In other words, we handle the infrastructure, we handle all of that work. It should increase the value of the site. And I want to know whether the business model that we have would allow that type of leveraging so that we can increase the debt as we go. Because in order to be able to do healthcare which is affordable, we want to be able to do investment that's affordable.
Liên quan câu hỏi của ông, tôi xin trả lời như sau. Thứ nhất, về mà lĩnh vực mà ông cần quan tâm đầu tư về lĩnh vực chăm sóc y tế, thì đó là một lĩnh vực phải nói nằm trong cái chương trình xã hội hóa của chính phủ theo nghị định 69. Thì cái thuế nó được rất là ưu đãi. Thuế rất ưu đãi, nó hưởng ngang bằng với như những ngành công nghệ cao. Cũng được 4 năm miễn và 9 năm giảm. Thứ nhất. Đến câu thứ hai mà liên quan tới ông nói ông cần 100 hectare đất để làm một cái trung tâm chăm sóc sức khỏe này. Quỹ đất này chúng tôi sẵn sàng có ở tỉnh Bình Dương này. Và câu quan trọng nhất là ông quan tâm là nếu mà quỹ đất này ông có thể dùng làm cái đòn bẩy để tạo lực ra ông vay vốn. Nếu mà ông đã mua đất này và làm nghĩa vụ tài chính đầy đủ với nhà nước thì ông có quyền thế chấp tài sản này cộng với cái phần xây dựng trên cơ bản trên phần đất của ông thì ông dùng cái này để ông thế chấp được. Luật cho phép. Vậy đúng câu hỏi của ông chưa?
Yes, but I'd like to get a banker's answer too.
Yes, I think I just want to reconfirm the point from Mr. Thuận is that yes, you can pledge the land to borrow from bank as long as your land has a long-term lease contract. So let me clarify, right?
Is that more than 50 years or what? 50
yeah,
years.
yeah. So if you pay your rental fee on an annual basis, then bank cannot base on that collateral to land. No. But if you, let's say you have 20 years, 30 years, then it works for bank.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah, okay.
If there are no other pressing questions, I think our morning session is nearing an end, and it is lunchtime, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we'd like to thank the party's General Secretary for his graciously hosting us. Very informative session, and we'll continue this after lunch. Thank you.